Okay, hey everyone, I'm Daryl Stringer. This is episode 13 of the Build a Photography Business Show, and this is where I help photographers like you with photography, marketing, pricing, and a whole lot more. In this episode, we're going to look at how to get paid what you're worth. I know that's a big issue for a lot of you. And then after that, we're going to have an open question and answer time. If you've got any questions, you can drop them in. We'll have a chat. So feel free to drop any questions or comments below this video, and I'll share your comment during the show. Now, I want to start by quickly mentioning that I run a coaching program called the Real Estate Photography System. Amongst other things, that's where I run 1-hour training sessions every week, and we dig deep into a particular topic. And I thought it might interest some of you to just quickly see what we talk about. So just really, really fast, just to see if this is something that might help you or not. So in the past few weeks, I've led training sessions that covered preparing for a world where real estate agents don't need photos anymore, client retention, and some creative ways to keep them coming back. We looked at how to get more engagement on social media. And then before that, we looked at what do you need to do to justify your current or future pricing. So that's just really quickly an example of what I've been talking about over the last few weeks. If that interests you at all and you think you might like to get in on that, send me a message. And I can send you some details about that program. All right, let's get into a little training right now. There we go. All right, so in the last episode of this show, I presented a formula for building a price for your photography packages and other services. And this is what that formula looked like. So you can take a look at episode 12 if you want a full explanation of how all that works. And when we were talking about pricing, I had one photographer say that the big issue they face is getting tight Yorkshire folk to pay what pro photography is worth. So I thought I'd take a look at this issue of how to get paid what you're worth. So hands up if that's an issue for you. So look, maybe drop a yes in the comments if getting people to pay what you're worth is hard work for you. Is that something that you face as well? Now, when I was starting to think through what I'd do if I was that photographer, I think I'd want to start by acknowledging the two criteria that our clients have when it comes to choosing a photographer. They all choose one photographer over another, either because they are cheaper or because they are better. So what they mean by better will vary a lot. So what we need to do as photographers is try and put ourselves at the top of that better column across multiple categories. So however they decide that they want a better photographer and not just a cheaper photographer, we want to dominate in that category. What we also want to do is to structure our business in such a way that even customers who are looking for a cheap photographer are rethinking that decision once they see what we do, and hopefully we can help them shift to wanting a better photographer, not a cheaper photographer. So when we frame it that way, we can then start to think through, okay, what makes a better photographer in the eyes of a real estate agent or a builder or an interior designer? So what you could do is list the elements that makes a business or your photography business unique. And I define this as a photographer's brand. It's their brand and where they are positioned in the marketplace that really sets one photographer apart from the others. So you take that list of elements that make up a photographer's brand, you define what average looks like, and then maybe you define what better could look like in the eyes of your clients. So think through what it is that differentiates one photographer from another. And I know a lot of photographers will point to the quality of their photography, and you could definitely do that. But I've left it out of my list today because I want to encourage you to not rely on image quality. Now, the reason I say that is that as photographers, we're often much better at picking up differences in image quality than our clients are. So while you might see a big difference in the way you use flashed exposures compared with other photographers who use ambient light, just to give one example, and maybe that's what you think is your big advantage, your clients may not be so good at picking up those differences. So, I mean, photo quality matters, but just for this purpose, we're just going to leave it off this list today. So, what we want to do then is look at the other areas of your business, in particular, the areas that your clients are better at judging, and see how they might impact on the way your potential clients see you. So here are the categories I'd include when trying to define a particular photographer's brand and what might set you apart. So I'd list, oh, there we go, the reputation of the photographer, your story, customer service, logo, colors and fonts, website design and content, and social media content. So what you could do then is think about how you could excel in each of those areas, but make sure it's in a way that is going to be noticed by your customers. Now, I know a lot of photographers find that quite tricky to do because it's honestly, it's hard to see your business in that way, but this is really important. So you need to consider things from your customer's point of view. And maybe if you think you're too biased when it comes to assessing your own business, and that's normal, get some people outside your business to help you. So maybe there are some other business owners or other photographers who could help you with this, or maybe bring in a business coach to help you or a mentor to help you. Find someone that you can trust and then speak with them about this and get them to take a really critical look at each of these areas in your business and see what it would look like for you to be better. So let's go through each of these categories, and I want to emphasize that your market and your business is going to be very different to others. So I'm just going to generalize here, but hopefully it gives you an idea of how you can work through this process. So let's start by thinking about the reputation of the average real estate photographer in your area. Or if you aren't quite sure, think about the average photographer in the industry. And when we're thinking about this, we're looking at the trust that clients and prospects have in that photographer. So do they believe that the photographer can deliver what they need? Do they think the photographer will arrive on time, engage well with the homeowner, and act in a professional manner? And when you look at what everyone else is doing, what comes to mind for you? Okay, so that's what we want to write down in this first column. Now, in the second column, we want to write down what a photographer with a better reputation would do as defined by the client. So what do you think that would be? Okay, in that column then, in that second one, you'll write down what better would look like where you are. And obviously this means you need to know your competition, but you also need to think creatively about how you could build a better reputation for your business. Now, the next thing to think about is your story. And what we're doing here is not so much critiquing an individual story, but we're thinking about whether a photographer's story is being shared and how that story is integrated into that business. So in this first column, write down what the average photographer shares about their story. And you might want to visit some websites for photographers in your area, just to be sure you're being honest and fair in your assessment. Now, you might find that often it's largely missing, or if it's there, it's not very compelling. So that's usually what I find, but look, check it out in your area and see what's being done there. Now, in the second column, you want to write down what a better example of sharing your story could look like. So don't be tempted to take the easy way out here. So be ambitious and be transparent. So get people to buy into your story so they understand who you are and why you're a photographer. Look, to give you an example, so you understand what I mean here. My story of how I became a business coach is that I was a real estate photographer for 17 years, but I struggled to find a business coach who could provide me with tools and training directly relevant to real estate photography. So I created a coaching program specifically for real estate photographers, giving them a support network and a space where they can access pre-made tools that will help their businesses grow and where they can grow as individuals as well, because that's what I wish I had access to when I was still shooting. So if that story resonates with you, then you might want to learn more about what I do or reach out to me to find out how I can help you. Whereas if I just said that I run a training program for photographers, then that doesn't provide the same level of connection between us. Okay, do you see what I mean? Okay, so think about how you might apply that in your business. So you might want to share your story then and the thing that makes you unique, and then use that to differentiate you from the cheaper photographers in your area. So think about your story as a photographer and how you could incorporate that story and then share that with potential clients in a way that is better than what most other photographers are doing. Now, next up, we want to think about customer service. And this is a really broad category, but it's a really important one. In the last couple of weeks or a few weeks back, I've been working through with my coaching clients as we've been defining what basic customer service looks like and then what premium customer service is like. And the reason that's so important is that your clients may not be able to see any difference between your photos and another photographer's photos, as we mentioned at the start. But what they can see is customer service. And in fact, they're really, really good at picking up on great customer service. So it's something you really want to invest in. So for this exercise that we're doing, write down what average customer service looks like in your area. So maybe think about the booking process, how long it takes for photos to be delivered, the time it takes for you to, or for other photographers to respond to an inquiry, and things like that. So you want to define what normal looks like, and then in the second column, write down what it would look like for you to be better. So how would you step up to a new level? And what would you do with customer service to go from down here to up here? Okay, and again, don't worry at this stage about how you'll deliver that level of customer service. Just try and define what you could be doing, and you can kind of figure out how you'll do that later on. So next on our list is your logo and the colors and the fonts you use in your material. So we want to think about the quality of the logo you're using. Does it seem professional? And what message does that logo convey? We also want to think about colors, and in particular, we're thinking about the consistency of those colors right across a business. So a strong brand will be very intentional with their color use on their website, social media, business cards, everywhere really. Whereas a weaker brand might use different variations of blue, or they'll use one font on their logo, but then use a different font across their website or in other promotional stuff. So taking a look at our table, what does the average photographer in your market convey with their convey with their logo, their colors and their fonts? Okay, are they consistent with those elements, or are they inconsistent? Now, you don't want to be making assumptions, so take a look at what other photographers are doing and assess their logo, colors and fonts. And after that, you want to write down what a better version of that could look like. So we're looking for consistency, professionalism, and the right mix of those elements relative to the particular brand. So say a fun brand will have different colors and fonts to a formal brand, and one isn't better than the other, but we want to make sure that there's consistency there across those three elements, and in each space where those elements are seen, whether it's online or in print or anywhere. Okay, so the next thing we want to look at is your website. And this is an important one. In spite of the way that social media platforms have kind of taken over from websites, it's still a place that your clients go to when they want to learn more about you or send you an email or book a photo shoot. So it's also very easy to create a website that makes you look really cheap. So I've seen a lot of real estate photographer websites, and too many of them, I think, look very basic and need improving. So what you might want to do is to write down what's normal for a real estate photographer in your market. And then in the next column, write down what a better than normal photographer would do with their website. So with this, we're thinking about the design of the site, but we're also thinking about the content on the site and what that says about you as well. Okay? So what would a better photographer have on their site? All right? Now, I think a better photographer website is going to be easy to navigate. It's going to look highly professional, and it's going to share the photographer's story about why they do what they do. So maybe toss some ideas around, see what you can come up with to create a website that positions you firmly in that preferred photographer category. Okay, now the final thing to consider is, of course, your social media content. And we want to start by looking at the social media content of the normal photographer. And what I see from most real estate photographers when I look at their stuff on Instagram or Facebook is portfolio content. So lots and lots of photos of the interiors and exteriors of houses. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. And it's really good to show what you can do. But if that's all you're sharing, then I think you're missing out on one of the big opportunities of social media, and that is to educate and inform. So in the first column, write down what's normal for photographers in your area when it comes to social media. And in the second column in our table, write down what you could be doing better. And I think a better photographer will be using their social media channels to share their knowledge and their experience, to go a step above just sharing photos. I think this is a real point of difference. And if you're looking for one thing that can really separate you from your competition, then find a way to use your social media channels to educate and inform. I think if you can do that, then that will pretty quickly put daylight between you and the cheaper photographers out there. Particularly if you can use video with you on screen, talking about your knowledge and your experience and kind of everything that you know. So now let's take a look at this list. And if you were clearly doing everything here, in like everything better in each of these 6 categories, how do you think you would be perceived by agents in your local market? I'd reckon that even agents who might otherwise go for the cheaper photographer would have to say that photographer costs a bit more, but they are better. Now, you're not going to be able to convince everyone to hire you, but if you're doing all of those things well, I think you're going to make it pretty clear that you know your stuff, you're great to work with, and you're highly professional. And I think that message resonates really well in any market, even if your price is a little higher than your competition. Now, how much higher you can push that price will depend on how well you can present yourself as the better photographer in those 6 categories. But if you try some of these ideas and find that agents are still unwilling to pay your fee, then maybe check over your business again just to make sure that you are delivering a better option in each of those categories in a way that your customers can kind of follow and understand. And look at everything you do through their eyes. I think that'll really help you to identify the areas that need changing. Having said that, if you build a strong brand and if you are better than your competition in each of those 6 categories, but you're not doing any marketing, then you might still struggle. So it's really important that you get this brand story right and make sure you've got a great product to sell. But then you also want to go out there and do the selling and engage with prospects and invite them to work with you. but it starts with having a great brand. So build your brand, as we talked about today, and when you get the brand right, then you'll progress to marketing and making sure everyone knows about you and what you do. All right, now it's time for some Q&A. So if you've got any questions or comments about the content that we've talked about today, feel free to drop them in now. So whether you're watching live or if you're watching later, I'll definitely respond to any questions that you have. So yeah, if you've got any questions or anything there, and I'm just taking a quick look. All right, just seeing their comment from John. He says, agents want great looking content. The TC wants easy, reliable downloads. They are a strong voice in the office. Yeah, that's a good point, John. They do want great looking content. So yeah, find the people that are influential in your market and make sure you're appealing to them. Notice another comment there from John says, education info is also good material for email broadcasts. Yeah, that's a really good point as well. When you're creating your content, look for how you can maximize that and use it in as many different areas as possible. So you don't want to invest all of this energy into creating some awesome material and then only put it up like in a single Facebook post or single post on Instagram. So it's trying to diversify what you've got there. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions at the moment, so we'll leave it there for today. Thank you for joining in. I hope you found that helpful. Let me just quickly mention if you want to find me on social media. Here's where I am on Facebook, Instagram, and let me just hide that comment there, YouTube, and also LinkedIn. If you want to email me any other questions as well, you can do that also. There's my email, Daryl@builderphotographybusiness.com. All right, thanks again for joining in, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye for now.